back, storytellers. This is Joshua D. Faulkner. Thank you for stopping by once again. Today we're going to be covering my top 75 favorite films of all time, but within the next 10 films, counting down. If you missed the first count 75 through 66, be sure to check out the link right there or down in the description below. But we're going to cover 65 through 56 in this video every Friday or Saturday for the coming weeks up until April 23rd, where I do my top 15 films of all time. But starting off with number 65, we have Dead Poets Society. This is a film that's very poetic just by its own means of talking about poetry, talking about all these different things. But this story is compelling, just not in this boarding school and college sort of way, the way they're going through all this uniformity in school, and then just Robin Williams' performance and all the other kids, and then the iconic lines such as my captain," brings out such a strong sense of emotion throughout the film that makes it feel very simple and understandable for what it's going for. I do enjoy English and writing quite a bit, so that's why this film really pertains to me a lot. But what really stuck it out was the ending. I cannot reveal it at all. I definitely recommend this film for you. That really just took a huge turn at the end that I was not going for before it went into its resolution, but with one of the students. But overall, this is a huge film that just really stuck out to me, and I hope to watch it again soon. Coming in at 64, we have Warrior. Now, this is another sort of fighting, or I don't know the sort of tournament, but the wrestling sort of thing with these two brothers that are just training hard, going to fight, going to win, and earning money for their families, and then they have to go up against each other in a match. And that's where things become hard, what the conflict between families and what they have to do together to work things out and figure out what ultimately is the best decision. And the tension is huge. You just end up committing to each character, rooting for each character as they grow, but you don't know really who you want to win between these two, because they are brothers, because of their relationship and chemistry that is built up together so well. And it's just one of the more left behind films of the 2010s that people kind of miss every once in a while. I know it's gaining popularity, but if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. Coming in at 63, we have Barry Lyndon. Now, this is one of Stanley Kubrick's great masterpieces. I highly enjoy the set pieces, the setting that we're just sucked in. And it's very surreal that it doesn't feel like it's filmed in 1970. It feels so much older, even though it uses a very down-to-earth setting, because of how well the costumes are, the acting, and it's a really lengthy story. It's very slow, so it won't be for everyone. But the journey it takes me on is really compelling enough that it has to land at least in the minimum of being on the lower end of this list. But still, all in all, it's objectively really good film. The journey and just the directions that it takes us, it takes us all these different places, all these different vulnerabilities of man, just really works well for me. Coming in at 62, we have the first Star Wars film of this list, Star Wars Return of the Jedi. This is such a great send-off for what could have the first original trilogy. And I know the first half hour is kind of a recovery from what they had to do with Empire Strikes Back. Harrison Ford saying he was going to leave, and then ended up coming back, having to bring back his character into the mix. And so it did feel a little clunky, but I still enjoy that part. But what lands for me most, of course, is as it transitions away from that. I highly enjoy all of the Endor scenes, and then the final battle, they're getting a lot more space battles, transitioning back and forth between ground and space, and I think it really blends well. The editing is great, and then involving that personal touch with the conclusion of Luke having to fight his father Vader, just so great. Seeing Luke's training come to a close in this, and well, I have expressed in the past that I still love The Last Jedi and that version of Luke. This is still just as much Luke that we're getting in this original trilogy in this certain time, that I highly enjoy Return of the Jedi exactly for what it is and exactly for the themes it's expressing. George Lucas had an excellent vision that comes to a close right at the end of the original trilogy with this movie. Coming in at 61, we have Ex Machina, one of the first A24 films of this list. Highly enjoyed it. It's very, of course, A24 has its style of being so much slow, but very story oriented, where it focuses on the right details at the right times and really building upon these characters, sort of building this AI robot and the relationship this character has with it. The acting is great between each of these characters. It feels very secluded environment, especially as they are sort of outcast from society in this other countryside, that you sort of feel that otherworld type of feel that's supposed to be more top secret, and then just the twist that comes about with this, and then the emotions you get when the robot becomes more and more human as she learns to connect with these humans, the language she receives, and then understanding what she's being used for is ultimately a great twist that I just was not expecting to love so much, but it really resonated strong with me too. Even though I haven't watched it in a couple of years, I still remember it to this day. Coming in at number 60, we have Silence of the Lambs. This is a highly strong thriller, sort of horror-esque movie with Hannibal. Most people have not seen Manhunter, even though it's the first of this trilogy, and I haven't gotten to see that as well. But it still works, even as a middle film. A film that works independently, that's won Best Picture, and for good reason. It's so good. Just the performances, just what they're covering, it's almost creepy and feels so surreal and almost like makes you feel uncomfortable with some of the things they do with Hannibal, sort of cutting up bodies to be this sort of masochist killer. But it's really good, like just the way they develop his character, you almost see where he's coming from, and yet it's still disturbing. And that's what makes it work really well. Having that fear for our protagonists and just the characters in general, with all that goes about with Hannibal Lecter's, with that creepy performance. And let me know down in comments below what your favorite films of 65 through 56 are, if you have them, or just some of your favorites in general. But moving on to my list, the top 4, we got 59, Knives Out. Now this is a crazy, wacky mystery from Rian Johnson that just came out a few years ago. Highly enjoy it. The pacing is really great. Mystery, I sort of had it a little bit spoiled right before I saw it for the first time, but I ended up forgetting, and I highly enjoyed that twist, what they were doing, what the pacing, the setup, building up this characters in this family, that the family isn't exactly building likable characters, so that's a little bit of a fault objectively, but I still highly enjoy what they were intending and what Rian Johnson was intending with the story. Ana de Armas is so great in her role, and just Chris Evans, all the rest of the cast really builds together, and even if they're not likable so much, the chemistry really is there. Sounds believable enough to where the mystery works on its own, and just having Daniel Craig into mix as the mystery scene, I really love this film to where I'm really excited for what Rian Johnson is going to bring in the rest of the trilogy. And coming in at 58, another film I haven't seen in a long time. 58 is Goodfellas, a mob sort of film where this one guy is born and raised and adopted into this mafia type of family, and just becomes invested in this. And just what I remember, the pacing is really great. The acting and just Martin Scorsese's direction with this is just thrilling. I just remember those emotions still, even as I don't remember as much of the plot that I need to still rewatch this, it still resonates with me so much that I still have to put it at this placement, and I just highly enjoy all the characters, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, all these different directions they're going with, really sucking you into the story and making it believable, and then having those different twists near the end, the action, the set pieces, and everything that goes along with the killings and everything in between. I just gotta keep Goodfellas on my favorites list, and hopefully I can rewatch it soon. And coming in at 57, we have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the first Harry Potter film of this list. And Harry Potter, as in general, I love the franchise. It's been a while since I read the books, but having rewatched the films recently, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince had to land on this list, making such a high impact in just the pacing, going off of Order of the Phoenix, which is really a setup of the climax of the franchise as a whole, that they're starting collecting Horcruxes, and Dumbledore becomes a huge part. You're learning more about him, learning and building more on our main three still, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and developing all these other characters, more of Severus Snape, and just really building up to the resolution and climax of this film, with leading up to Voldemort, and just the action and pacing and visuals all together, and the twist of who the Half-Blood Prince is. I just completely forgot all the details beforehand, but going back into this, it was such a fresh watch that I absolutely loved, that I know, even though it may have been recently, but I've just seen it now, I know how good this film just really is. And coming up with the final film on this list, we have Gifted, another film from Mark Webb, who has made the Amazing Spider-Man films, which has a controversial opinions on their own, but Gifted is one I watched a few months ago and highly stuck with me. Chris Evans in his role is great as the sort of stepfather, and just, I did not know what to expect, and it highly delivers on this younger girl that has this gifted sense of talents, and where she's smarter than others, having to deal with it, and the reality of the situation just feels so surreal that I almost had to look up if it was based on a true story, which it isn't, but it could be, just in a general sense of what they're dealing with, and then having to deal with a court where she ends up going, and who the best relationship for this young girl is, having to possibly go in a foster home, and just dealing with all these different things, when Chris Evans ends up being a good father that has controversial ways of going about raising her, but is done in just the right way, that you're sort of mixed and feeling all the emotions of the tug and pull that the young girl has to go through, and then what Chris Evans' character as a father is having to deal with, what they're going back and forth on, the parents included, and just all together, what is all going on within this film, feeling all the raw emotions emitting from these characters, and the tension of this, and the soundtrack all together makes for one wonderful film. And that's going to be it for my favorite films of all time, 65 through 56. Next Friday or Saturday, I'll be going through 55 through 46. So be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on this as we finish off this journey of my favorite films of all time. Let me know down in the comments below, y'all, your favorite films. Thank you for watching. Bye.